The final battle to avoid a climate disaster, the truth of zero emissions and adaptation. How to avoid a climate disaster Part 6. Imagine a small farmer is standing in his field in the morning. There are clouds in the sky, but he does not know whether it will rain today or if a flood will come. Last year there was a drought, and before that, water suddenly submerged the crops. He does not have a big bank balance, he does not have insurance, and if the crops fail this time, his children's studies, the house's rations and seeds for the next season, everything could fall into danger. The fear starts right from here. Climate change is not just a future warning, it can become the daily reality of a poor farmer today. And the curiosity is, if it will still take many years for the world to reach zero emissions, how will people live in this warming world until then? So far in this series we understood the entire chain of the climate disaster. In the first part we came to know that the world puts a huge burden of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere every year, and the real target is not just reducing emissions but taking them to zero. In the second part, we saw the story of electricity, where clean power can become the foundation to change the entire economy. In the third part, the hidden climate cost of cement, steel and plastic came forward, because the materials that make the world are connected to emissions too. In the fourth part, we understood the climate connection of our plate, fields, animals, fertilizer and food waste. In the fifth part, we saw the trap of transport, where cars can be electric, but making trucks, planes and ships clean is far more difficult. And now in this final part, the question is, while this transformation happens slowly, how do we protect ourselves until then? A very important message of Bill Gates' book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, is that mitigation and adaptation are both necessary together. Mitigation means reducing emissions so that warming can be controlled in the future. Adaptation means preparing oneself according to that warming world which is already being created. If we focus only on reducing emissions and forget adaptation, millions of people will suffer from floods, droughts, heat waves and crop failures. And if we only do adaptation but do not reduce emissions, the problem will keep getting bigger every decade. Therefore, the path is two-way: fast steps towards zero emissions and strong preparation for a warmer world. First of all, it is necessary to understand that the impact of climate change does not fall equally on everyone. Rich countries have money, infrastructure, technology, insurance and emergency systems. If a flood comes there, funds can be obtained for rebuilding. If a heat wave comes, cooling systems can be available. But for low-income communities, one bad season can change life. If a small farmer's crop fails, he will not be able to buy new seed. If fodder decreases for livestock, milk and meat production can drop. If food prices rise, the plate of poor families can become smaller. This exact thing is climate injustice. Agricultural adaptation is the most critical part of this story. With climate change, the rainfall pattern can become unpredictable, droughts can become more intense, floods can submerge crops, and heat can reduce the productivity of crops. Therefore, farmers need seeds that can survive in changing weather. Agricultural research networks like 𝐮𝐩𝐼AR work in this very direction. 𝐮𝐩𝐼AR's Climate Smart Agriculture Guide states that the Drought-Tolerant Maize for Africa project released several varieties of drought-tolerant maize between 2007 and 2013, so that the vulnerability of farmers in drought-prone areas could be reduced. This matter is very big, because in many parts of Africa, maize is not just a crop, it is the basis of life. If maize fails, household income, food security, and the local market all can be affected. A drought-tolerant seed is no magic, but it gives an extra chance to the farmer. Even when rain is less, the crop does not get completely destroyed. Even when the weather cheats a little, the farmer's hope does not break completely. The real meaning of climate adaptation is exactly this, not leaving people alone in front of nature's changing behavior. The story of flood-tolerant rice in India and South Asia also shows the power of this very adaptation. IRRI worked on flood-tolerant varieties like Scuba rice, meaning 𝐼𝐻𝐵1, which can survive even in short-term flooding. According to Rice Today, 𝐼𝐻𝐵1 was called Scuba rice because it has the capacity to remain underwater for 2 weeks and has been helpful for farmers in flood-prone areas. This example is important because many farmers in South Asia depend on the monsoon. If rain comes on time and in the right quantity, the crop can be good. But if a flood comes suddenly, the entire field can submerge. In such a situation, flood-tolerant rice is not just a scientific innovation, but the safety of the farmer's home. It can save a child's school fees, the family's rations, and the hope of the next season. But adaptation is not a story of seeds alone. Soil health, irrigation, weather forecasting, crop insurance, local storage, cold chain, and farmer advisory systems are equally necessary too. If the farmer gets an accurate weather warning beforehand, he can take the decision of sowing or harvesting better. If irrigation is efficient, water can be saved in a drought. If storage is good, crop waste can reduce. If insurance is fair and accessible, the farmer will not break completely after a disaster. Now comes the matter of natural defenses. Many times, nature itself holds the capacity to protect us, but we have weakened those defenses in the name of development. Wetlands can absorb floodwater. Forests can hold soil. Mangroves can protect coastal areas from storm surges. Coral reefs can reduce the power of waves. If we destroy them, we do not lose just trees or wetlands, we lose our natural security wall. For coastal cities, mangroves are very important. Mangroves are trees that grow in salt water, which create a natural buffer between the sea and land. They can reduce the strength of storm surges, stop coastal erosion, and become a nursery for fish species too. In recent reporting too, mangrove restoration has been linked to flood and storm protection, like reforestation efforts in Brazil's Guanabara Bay showed help in both coastal protection and local livelihoods. Cities are the second big battlefield of adaptation. A large population of the world lives in cities, and in the future, the urban population will increase further. Cities can become heat islands where concrete and asphalt trap heat. In heavy rain, drainage can fail. Sea level rise can threaten coastal infrastructure. Therefore, future cities will have to be made not just beautiful or expensive, but climate resilient. A climate resilient city means better drainage, correct planning of flood zones, green spaces, cool roofs, shaded streets, reliable public transport, emergency shelters, strong power grids, and heat action plans. Bridges, roads, metro lines, hospitals, and water systems will have to be designed keeping future climate risks in mind. If infrastructure is built according to today's weather only, tomorrow's extreme events can break it. Heat adaptation is very necessary too. As heat increases, cooling demand will rise. But if everyone runs ACs with fossil fuel-based electricity, emissions will rise again. Therefore, cooling will have to be made smart too. With efficient ACs, better building design, insulation, ventilation, tree cover, and clean electricity. Meaning, adaptation and mitigation are connected to each other here too. We have to be saved from the heat and also not increase emissions from cooling. Now comes the matter of disaster preparedness. With climate change, extreme weather events can become more damaging, therefore countries will have to invest in early warning systems, evacuation planning, resilient healthcare and emergency response. For poor communities, this is even more necessary because they have less private backup. A timely warning can save thousands of lives. A strong shelter can keep families safe in a cyclone. A functioning health system can reduce deaths in a heat wave. Bill Gates mentions controversial ideas like geoengineering too, but does not consider it a main solution. Geoengineering means such artificial methods by which the Earth's warming can be temporarily reduced, like putting reflective particles into the atmosphere or making clouds brighter. A short-term cooling effect has been seen after volcanic eruptions due to particles spreading in the atmosphere. Therefore, in theory, some people talk about solar radiation management. But the problem is that geoengineering does not solve the root cause of emissions. Carbon dioxide remains in the atmosphere, issues like ocean acidification can continue, and the risk of unintended consequences is large. Therefore, geoengineering cannot be considered a replacement for a climate solution. It can be a part of an emergency discussion, but the real cure is only reducing emissions, deploying clean technology, and strengthening adaptation. If a person only puts a cold cloth on a fever and does not treat the infection, the illness will not end. Geoengineering too can be that same kind of emergency cloth, not a cure. Now look at the entire series connected once like a story. The problem of climate change begins with invisible gases. Greenhouse gases trap the sun's heat in the atmosphere, and the earth slowly gets warm. Even a 1-degree change in temperature can affect floods, droughts, storms, wildfires, and sea level rise. Therefore, zero emissions is not just an environmental slogan, it is a survival strategy. Electricity is the first big pillar of this strategy. If power is clean, vehicles, buildings, and industries can be electrified. Solar and wind are growing rapidly, but there is the problem of intermittency. Options like nuclear, offshore wind storage, smart grids, and carbon capture can be parts of this puzzle. Without clean electricity, the decarbonization of the remaining sectors will be very difficult. Manufacturing is the second pillar. Cement, steel, and plastic have made the modern world, but heavy emissions occur in making them. In cement, carbon dioxide is released from the chemical process. In steel, coal becomes part of the process. Plastic is connected to fossil fuels and creates a waste problem too. Therefore, we need low-carbon cement, green steel, recycling, material efficiency and alternative materials. Stopping development is not the solution. Making development clean is the solution. Agriculture is the third pillar. In the food system, methane, nitrous oxide, fertilizer use, livestock, rice fields, food waste and deforestation are all connected. Meat and dairy can be a part of culture, but livestock emissions will have to be reduced. Fertilizer will have to be used in a smarter way. Food waste must be decreased. Forests and soil will have to be saved. Agriculture will have to be made a partner of the climate solution, not a climate villain. Transport is the fourth pillar. Cars can be electric, but for heavy trucks, planes and ships, the problem is of energy density. Biofuels, electrofuels, hydrogen, sustainable aviation fuel, efficiency standards and better urban planning will be needed. Mobility does not have to be stopped. Mobility has to be made clean. Cities have to be made such that a private car is not necessary for every task. And now the final pillar is adaptation. Because reaching zero emissions will take time, but the impact of warming is visible starting from now. Farmers need resilient crops. Cities will have to be prepared for floods and heat. Natural defenses, like mangroves, wetlands, and forests, will have to be restored. Poor communities need finance, insurance, technology, and support. The meaning of climate justice is exactly this, that the people who created less of the problem are not left the most alone. The most important lesson of this entire journey is that a climate disaster is not unavoidable. But to avoid it, half measures will not be enough. We need innovation, but not in the lab only. In the market, in the field, in the factory, in city planning and in policy. We need technology but with affordability. We need policies but with fairness. We need growth but without emissions. And we need hope, but honest hope. Such hope that does not hide the seriousness of the problem, but rather understands the urgency of action. Bill Gates' book is not to scare us but to wake us up. It says that the world is in trouble, but it is not helpless. We have many tools already, many tools are yet to be developed, and many habits are yet to be changed. If rich countries take the lead in innovation, make clean technologies cheap, developing countries get fair support, and governments make long-term policies, then a path to avoid a climate disaster can be made. For the common human being, the question is, what should they do? First of all, do not consider climate just a news topic. Understand your electricity use, reduce waste, decrease food waste, choose efficient appliances, use public transport or carpool, reduce unnecessary consumption, and support such leaders, policies and businesses that are doing genuine work toward a clean future. Every person alone cannot save the world, but every person can push that system which can save the world. In the end, the story returns right there where it started. A farmer is standing in his field, a child is going to school in a hot city, a family is trying to save their home in a flood-prone area, and a generation is deciding what kind of earth the coming generation will get. Climate change is not a distant theory. It is present in our electricity, our buildings, our food plate, our travel, and our future security. If we do not take emissions towards zero, warming will keep increasing. If we do not do adaptation, vulnerable people will break first. But if we do both things together, clean innovation and preparation for a warmer world, the story can change. Avoiding a climate disaster is not easy, but it is not impossible either. And perhaps that is the biggest message of this entire series. Now the question is not whether the danger is true or not. The question is how quickly, how honestly, and how wisely we take action. Because the fight to save the planet does not belong to any one scientist, any one government, or any one billionaire. It is the shared responsibility of us all. And if the world understands this responsibility in time, the coming generation will not call our era just an era of pollution, but will remember it as that turning point where human beings learn for the first time to take development and the planet along together.
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible, but in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.